What would you do if a massive black bear trusted you with her only cub's life? One man's life or death decision in the wild might redefine how we see courage and what we're willing to risk. This amazing tale took place in Canada. As Sean was heading home after a fruitful day of fishing, he opted for a shortcut through the bushes rather than taking the regular path. At that instant, the biggest shock of his life overwhelmed him. He had barely stepped a few meters off the trail when a massive black bear abruptly showed up directly in front of him. The bear was so near that he could observe her nose twitching with each breath. The man attempted to remain composed and act according to his training. He lifted his arms and increased his height to look more fearsome and less like a possible target. The bear stood on her back legs and smelled him. She was dangerously near. It was frightening. However, the bear then sat down and started to whine. He initially stepped back, prepared to withdraw. However, her agonizing cries compelled him to look back. He observed that the bear had several wounds on her side. Her front paw seemed to be hurt as well. This might render the situation even more perilous. Nonetheless, the bear appeared to not be a danger. She merely appeared disheartened. Sean recalled the early morning. On the other side of the river, a mother bear had her cub. This was likely the same bear. But what occurred that led to her injury? And where had the bear cub gone? This idea instantly prompted Sean to take action. He understood that the bear needed his assistance and cautiously trailed the creature to the river. Upon arriving at the river, Sean desperately looked for the baby bear, while the mother bear stayed by his side. However, he failed to spot any bear cubs. It felt odd. Then, unexpectedly, a dark head broke the surface of the water. Sean directed his gaze toward the location, and indeed, the bear cub's head emerged once more, as though it were holding onto a rock. The water streamed over the bear cub. He wouldn't be able to hang on for much longer. Sean suspected that the mother bear had attempted unsuccessfully to rescue her cub and had sustained injuries during the effort. Understanding that she needed assistance, she sought help and discovered Sean. Sean saw no option but to prevent the bear cub from drowning right before his eyes. However, he was aware from first-hand experience how powerful and hazardous the current was in this part of the river. Diving in unprepared would have been a fatal error. He needed to devise a strategy. He swiftly picked up his fishing equipment and the rope he usually utilized for his fish basket. He fastened the rope firmly around his waist and let a long section of it rest in front of him. He secured the opposite end of the rope firmly to a tree by the riverbank. He leaped firmly into the water. The current ended up being more powerful than he had anticipated. Using all his might, Sean battled his way to the boulders where he had last spotted the bear cub. Sean's background as a former Navy SEAL served him well, as a novice swimmer might have struggled in these strong currents. He went over to some rocks and clung on to see precisely where the cub was. For an instant, the only sounds he could detect were the growls and moans of the mother bear on the shore, anxiously pacing back and forth, clearly distressed. However, she appeared to understand that it was too risky to go back into the rushing water. All her hope of reuniting with her cub now relied on this extraordinary man. Sean was panting and perplexed. The swift currents and ongoing inundation complicated his ability to pinpoint the cub's precise whereabouts. He felt immense joy when the bear cub's head came into view before him. He would simply need to swim farther downstream to get to the cub. However, in a heartbreaking instant, the bear cub slipped from its hold on the stones and was swept away by the water. In an instant, his head vanished beneath the dark water. Sean dove after him without a second thought and swam with full effort. If he were to lose the bear cub now, it might be gone for good. The tiny bear went beneath and appeared to have ceased its efforts. The circumstances appeared bleak, Yet Sean persevered fervently and pursued the bear in the water. However, the rope he had secured around his waist grew increasingly tighter until it ultimately hit its maximum. As soon as the bear cub's head emerged again, he caught it just in time. He was concerned that the baby bear might retaliate or claw him, yet the bear simply lay motionless in his embrace. Nonetheless, that was not the conclusion. Now it was time to return to the secure shore. Sean realized that he would require both arms for swimming. He picked up the rope he had earlier thrown away and wrapped it around the baby bear. Now Sean was able to summon all his strength to bring her to safety. The cub's stillness aided him, yet it simultaneously posed a significant issue. It might already be too late to rescue the bear cub's life. What might occur if he arrived at the mother bear with the deceased cub? This may have unimaginable repercussions for Sean. However, he was unable to focus on that at that time. He had to dedicate all his energy to ensuring her safety. He sensed his vitality slipping away. Only the rush of adrenaline pushed him forward. All at once, his feet made contact with the ground. He had come to shallow water. Sean managed to lift the bear cub and take it out of the water. The mother bear approached them with astonishing rapidity. She was unexpectedly quick for an animal in such pain. Sean realized he needed to free the rope from the bear cub before the bear got to them. He barely had time to glance at the cub before the mother bear seized it. However, as the bear walked a few paces toward the woods, she unexpectedly started to sway precariously. In the next instant, she dropped to the floor with a crash. The little bear crawled atop her, yet she remained still. Sean hurried over to find out what the issue was. Only then did he understand that her injuries had to be more severe than he had thought. Evidently, the adrenaline in her system was sustaining her. And now that her baby was healthy and secure, she entirely fell apart. Sean was in disbelief. He saved the bear cub, only to see it become orphaned right in front of him. He felt powerless. He had neither cell phone reception out there nor enough time to walk back home. In this despairing moment, an unexpected event occurred. Unexpectedly, he listened to a noise coming from afar. It resembled a pickup truck. He yelled out forcefully, and unexpectedly, several foresters gathered around him. A few hikers who had earlier witnessed him rescuing the cub from the river rushed through the forest until they reached him. They subsequently notified the forest rangers, who arrived at the location as fast as they could. They carried a big crate along, and because the mother bear remained unresponsive, they could safely tend to her. They wrapped her injuries to prevent blood loss, and then gently placed her into the crate. The rescue group transported the two bears to the closest wildlife hospital for expert treatment. Individuals wished to preserve the bear's existence. Without their assistance, rehabilitating the baby would be challenging. The mother needed to have surgery on that very day. She also developed infections in a few of the wounds. The cub remained very weak from its dangerous ordeal, so they ensured it stayed calm to rest and heal. The attempts to restore the mother's health were fervent, yet the presence of her infant appeared to provide her with the strength required for recovery. Luckily, the two creatures healed gradually, and eventually the day arrived for them to go back to their true home, the woods. The rescue team had formulated a strategy for their liberation and notified Sean about it. They gathered at the release location deeper in the woods. The instant the cage doors swung open was enchanting. The mother bear quickly dashed into the woods. The cub paused briefly, glanced at its mother, and then accompanied her to safety. Sean could hardly contain his tears. He felt proud of having rescued the small family, even though it was slightly unfortunate that he would likely never meet them again. If this story moved you, like it did us, you ought to watch this video. After 12 years, a woman encounters a gorilla from her youth. and then the astonishing occurs. Tap here to access the complete narrative.